Well, we have a major storm, and it's very impressive on satellite and radar tonight. We're going to take a look at it in depth. Joe Rayo is going to take us around on all the exciting radars, and we'll let you know what's going to happen tomorrow as the heavy weather shifts to the East Coast. All of that, and whatever hell else happens to come up in conversation, we'll have it right here on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And of course, you can always provide support to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast by sending us money with the check. No, just kidding. Make sure there's a make sure there's a lot of numbers in front of the decimal point. No, uh,
Hey, the way things are going down the road, we may need that.
yes. In the meantime, you can do it far easier by shopping our referral link on Amazon. You just click on the link and buy your stuff, and Amazon sends us a little bit of coin, and we do mean little, to for sending you there. And we appreciate very much those of you who have shopped our referral link on Amazon. You got to have a sense of humor about these things. Uh, and just as I said that, you disappeared off my screen. There you go. So here we are. It is a Tuesday night. I'm just going to pre-warn everybody. I've already lost power once. It was only for a few seconds, but the wind, Joe, has been howling. One of the downsides of a howling wind when you have a Ring doorbell is that as the branches blow and it picks it up in its line of sight, the chimes go off. And when the chimes go off, the dog barks. And when the dog barks, he doesn't stop barking. And I have to calm him down. So I'm hoping that that doesn't happen while the show is on. But he's in show position right now. He's laying down not too far from me, asleep on the floor. So he knows to keep it calm during the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. and the occasional Friday and Saturday when there's a storm around. So if you are watching the show, if you're new to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, be sure to hit the like button because we'd love to get over 100 likes. Subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us.
It's
Okay.
interesting. It's interesting. You have a doorbell that reacts to the wind. I have a garage light. It's a motion sensor light. So if you come within, let's say, 20 feet of my garage, and the sensor detects you, this brilliant light will go on, regardless of what time of the night it is. But there are nights when we have very windy conditions. I'll look outside and I'll say, "Hey, the light is on," and it's being caused probably by the wind shaking the light or whatever. I guess that's
Yeah.
that's the cause or whatever. So
Yeah, no,
it's
for me, it's just I have a big hydrangea in the front of the house, and obviously it's got no leaves on it right now, but it sways in the wind, and it's right in the line of the camera of the Ring doorbell. So every time the branches go into the line of the camera, the chimes go off, and then I'll get a message on my phone saying, "You have a package at your door." No, I don't. Anyway, this is all due to this animal storm that is moving out of the Central Plains and heading for the Great Lakes. Very impressive satellite and radar signature this evening, and a lot going on the radar. There's a lot of severe weather moving across the Gulf states at the moment, and it looks like we're going to see that area move into the east for tomorrow.
And this storm system, which, as Joe mentioned right now, excuse me, is somewhere over the nation's midsection, probably right along the Iowa-Missouri border, and it will take a track over the next 24 hours across the lower Great Lakes, and then eventually it'll move up into and across Lake Huron and Lake Huron, and to the south and east of Georgian Bay. That's the smaller body of water that's just south and east of Hudson Bay, into Quebec by Thursday morning. It's eventually going to push a rather significant series of weather fronts in our direction here in the tri-state area. We've been talking about the warm front, whether or not it's going to get through our area. It looks like it may very well do so, but maybe not until sometime tomorrow evening. And then that'll be immediately followed by this cold front that'll come on through sometime before midnight tomorrow night. This squeeze play, if you will, is going to set the stage for a bout of heavy showery rains and possibly even some convection in the form of thunderstorms. If you're going to be out and about, the route tomorrow to work and school, not all that bad. There might be a couple of showers around, but it will not be until probably after the noon hour or sometime during the afternoon that the precipitation will begin to pick up noticeably in intensity. And we could pick up half to maybe as much as an inch or more. This does not look like one of those situations where we're looking at 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. But in the short time that it's here, we will have some bursts of rather heavy duty rainfall, maybe even torrential rainfall if convection gets involved. But unfortunately, it may very well coincide with the route home. So the route going to work and school, not all that bad, but coming home tomorrow may be a bit tough with the potential or prospectus for some rather heavy showery rains.
Half the country's under either a wind advisory or a not a winter advisory, a wind advisory and or a high wind warning right now. Normally you see such a lot of geography with a with advisories and warnings like that, but this is a really big system, very dominant feature.
It's one that is causing all manner of precipitation, everything from showery rains to prospective thunderstorms. There was a lot of damage done last night in Texas, not from tornadoes, but from straight line winds of 75 and 80 miles an hour. And if you happen to live on the backside of that storm, I just mentioned that it's near the Missouri-Iowa border. That system will pull away from there later tonight. Cold winds will blow in behind it, and that'll set the stage for near blizzard conditions if you live in and around Iowa.
Yeah.
So everything being thrown at us with this storm system, but I guess the kitchen sink, Joe.
All right. Well, you got the radars tonight, so you can have at it whenever you're ready.
All righty. Well, let's go to the share button and go to the share screen, and let's pick out first. Let's start, of course,
And,
with
and by the way, we have the moment. We have just a second. I just want to give it a quick refresh here. So we have 12 warnings up for severe weather, 2 tornado warnings, 9 severe thunderstorm warnings, 1 special marine warning. 4 of those are in Alabama, 1 in Louisiana, and 10 of them in Mississippi.
and I was talking to you before we came on the air, and I said, "What are you going to be doing around 5 or 6 o'clock tomorrow morning?" Because if I'm right, this band or this line of heavy-duty rain and thunderstorms will be crossing through your neck of the woods. But you already
Yes,
said you're usually up at 5 o'clock in the morning anyway,
yes,
so you won't be
correct.
awakened by rain falling on your tin roof.
Exactly. It'll sound like somebody's firing bullets.
Anyway, right now nothing is happening of any great concern on the New York Upton radar. There are some widely scattered showers appearing in northeastern Connecticut, northern Rhode Island, and portions of northeastern Massachusetts on the radar. I'm not even sure if any of that is reaching the ground, but for the moment, no real weather problems. I don't really think we're going to see much of anything overnight tonight. We had a beautiful afternoon with lots of clear sky and sunshine, and clouds will begin rolling in earnest, probably in the overnight hours after midnight, setting the stage for what we will see tomorrow. Now, let's head on down further to the south. Let's, in fact, go down to Mississippi, and you could see what it is showing. This is from the Jackson, Mississippi radar, and look at that line. It's a long, narrow, snaky, but look how intense the reds are, indicating that this is a line that certainly is potent enough to produce, if not tornadoes, Potential for damaging straight line winds and heavy duty rains, at least for a relatively short interval of time. And notice also that it is moving at a pretty good clip. This is a 3 hour loop. So it moves in 3 hours from the center part of Mississippi to almost the border of Mississippi and Alabama as we close out the loop 3 hours later. So this system is an example of some of the activity that eventually is going to be moving up in our direction. I don't think we're going to see a line like this coming through later tomorrow here in the New York area, but it just shows you the potency of this particular system, what it is capable of producing. Let's go up to Nashville, and you don't see a narrow line of convection, but what you do see is quite a bit of rain. The yellows indicating possibly moderate to even heavy rainfall activity, as seen from the Nashville radar, Nashville Old Hickory radar. And if we go further north, let's go up to, let's try Indianapolis. And you can see at Indianapolis that they are seeing this precipitation entering their area from the south and west. And this, again, is moving at a pretty good clip. This looks like light to moderate showery rains. And that, again, will be a part of the system that'll be moving in on us during the day tomorrow. I want to go over to Iowa, and let's go to Des Moines. And you can see that in Des Moines, the radar is, well, I'd say about 80% filled with precipitation. It actually looks like it's getting drier, but drier from the south and from the east. This is where the storm is centered, right about here. And you can see how the radar is indicating the movement of the cells and the whole area in a counterclockwise fashion. Now, as I said, as this system pulls away to the north and east, and as the colder air begins to flow in, and also as the gradient tightens up with this storm, you're going to begin to see snow, and you're going to begin to see blowing snow, and you're going to also see by later tonight and tomorrow morning possibly blizzard-like conditions. So if you yearn for snow, here's where you should be. You should be in Iowa, in Des Moines. They'll certainly get their fair share, maybe as much as 6 to 12 inches, I think, out of this. But again, that's where the cold and the precipitation happens to be. If we move further to the east, let's check out Tennessee, Morristown, Knoxville, Tennessee. Not much showing there now. Again, most of the action is located still off to the west, and so we'll have to wait for that whole system to move in a course to the east. This is Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and you can see again these areas of heavy duty rain moving in and across from the west or from southwest to northeast. I want to get another view of, we're looking down at that squall line in Mississippi. Let's see if it's being picked up elsewhere on other radar. Oh, of course, yes. Here's, this is the New Orleans radar. And you can see on this particular loop, I believe New Orleans is right about here. And you see that line, we looked at it from Jackson, Mississippi radar, and that same line now trekking right on through. And of course, one thing we forgot to mention last night, Joe, with all of this threat of tornadoes and severe weather, and especially the risk of the moderate risk of or enhanced risk of severe weather, we've got to mention that tonight is the night of the Mardi Gras celebration, Fat Tuesday. Tomorrow will be Ash Wednesday. A lot of celebrations usually occur on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. And so I guess right now what they're doing in the New Orleans area is taking cover as this squall line moves on through with its heavy duty. And again, it's very narrow and moving very quickly. So I would doubt very much if the, adverse weather were to last much more than 15 or 20 minutes. But in the short time that it's there, and with that very rapid forward speed, you're probably seeing, or they're probably seeing, thunderstorms with torrential downpours, heavy winds, heavy rains. But again, it's moving very quickly, and by later this evening, it'll pretty well be out of the New Orleans area, and they can resume whatever happy festivals and
There's no
celebrations.
festival tomorrow. It's Ash Wednesday.
Okay,
The garbage trucks in New Orleans, because I live there, and I've been through uh, four Mardi Gras. At midnight, the garbage trucks all come out. Everybody gets cleared off the street, and they start cleaning up. So that by
okay.
morning you don't even know, it's all done, and you don't even know what happened. That there was a big party the day before.
It's just like in New York, Times Square.
Hmm.
That right after midnight, they come, they collect all the garbage, the confetti, and everything else. And you're absolutely right. By daybreak, you hardly even know that anybody was there, even though there must have been like hundreds of thousands of people. So they do a good job in New York, and they also do it apparently down south as well.
Yeah.
Any place else you want to look at, or
Um, did you show? I'm sorry, because I was doing a few other things while you were talking. Did you go up into the Upper Midwest?
I did indeed,
Okay.
and
Did you
we took a look at Iowa and
punch up
with
my radar?
your radar. You mean Atlanta,
Yeah, Peachtree.
Peachtree City,
Yeah.
and uh, and you can see that most of the activity is edging ever so slowly in from Alabama way, from the west, and as I noted earlier at the top of the show, uh, Mr. Chiaffi is going to be in line for possibly some heavy weather sometime around 5 or 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, and that heavy weather is coming in from the west, and that's the very beginnings, the forerunner of that. That again is appearing on the radar loop from Peachtree City, from Atlanta, coming in from the west, edging in from the west during the last few frames of the loop.
Okay. I mean, that pretty well sizes it up. I appreciate it very much that you accommodated my person.
Always, Joe.
Yes, thank you.
I'm not. I'm not here just to throw rants every now and then.
Which, by the way, you can see I cut. If you haven't seen it, you can pull up last night's show. But I also cut a 2 minute short version of the Joe Rayo rant last night, and it's also there on in the YouTube library. All right, so just got to do one thing really quick here. Everything's, with that power hit I took, I'm just a little bit behind, but we're going to check out the watches and warnings in just a second, folks. So just bear with me as I just take care of a little bit of notification business. And all right, we are all set to go now. Beautiful. Okay, so let's go to the watches and warnings because it is like a Christmas tree tonight across the middle part of the country. First off, as I pointed out earlier, tons of wind advisories, high wind warnings up from already in the Carolinas, here in Georgia, and I can tell you, I mean, it's been howling here. Every bit of 25 to 35 with gusts over 40 miles an hour. We have the yellow areas are the remaining tornado watches that are up right now for parts of southern Alabama, southernmost Mississippi into southeast Louisiana. We have high wind warnings up for much of West Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, a good chunk of Missouri. The orange areas are the counties that are under blizzard warnings. Now, I did happen to look at Kansas City's forecast, and they're only going for an inch or so tonight, but they have a blizzard warning up in Kansas, in Kansas City, with temperatures that, when I last checked, were in the mid 50s, and they were supposed to drop down into the low and mid 20s, along with 30 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts. And those blizzard warnings, by the way, extend up now into a bunch of counties in southern Minnesota. Winter storm warnings flank that, along with some winter weather advisories. Winter storm warnings up for much of central and northern Wisconsin and into the upper peninsula of Michigan. New winter storm watches are up across the middle of Iowa from east to, I'm sorry, the middle of Wyoming from east to west, and the middle of Utah from north to south. We've got winter weather advisories covering a good chunk of Utah and a couple of counties in winter storm warnings. Winter storm warnings for the southern portion of the Sierra Nevadas in California. Winter weather advisories for the northern portion. Also, winter weather advisories up for northern Maine, and flash flood watches up for north central and western and southwestern New York because they have a ton of snow on the ground. And I do mean a ton of snow on the ground. And that's going to be melting. And the rainfall amounts are not going to be exceptional, but it's enough between that and the snow melt that they're going to have some flooding problems. Brad the, hold on, Brad the Boar uh, is watching us from Canada. Thank you, Brad. Thank you for hitting Super Chat tonight. And welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Uh, we love having you here. Check out the loop. I'm using the blend, the sandwich blend here, and you can see the enhanced higher and colder cloud tops. You can just see how big this thing is, and you also can see very well the rotation of the upper feature in northwestern Missouri and the big arc that goes back on the west side down into Kansas. That's where all the snow is there on in that arc that extends from there up into Iowa and up into Minnesota. And of course, you also see the blow up of showers and storms as that enhancement now shifts eastward and the clouds are sweeping through Georgia and eastern Tennessee and into the western Carolinas. We've got some high clouds coming over the top in upstate New York and northern New England. And we've got a disturbance that's moving into the northern Rockies. And also, there's some energy that's coming in off the coast of California that's streaming through the middle part of the state and extending its way on up into Nevada. And here's the wide view of the radar tonight. There are some heavy rains going on, by the way, in Indiana and Illinois, down into western Kentucky and western Tennessee. And of course, Joe showed you the squall line, and you can see all the yellow boxes there. Those are severe thunderstorm warnings as of 7:58 p.m., 7:59 p.m. Eastern time, and that's just moving along to the east. We've got some little bit of wintry precipitation moving into northern New England where it's cold enough. And in the northwest, we've got also some precip there. The Storm Prediction Center. The enhanced risk now has, the area was a lot bigger this morning, obviously, because it extended back into East Texas. Now it's shrinking a little bit as it moves eastward, but we have enhanced risk for much of Mississippi and Alabama. It's playing out now with the tornado watches and the severe weather that's moving through, as well as southeast Louisiana. The western part of that's going to get whittled away. The marginal risk extends up into Missouri and Illinois, western Kentucky, and much of Tennessee, and into the state of Georgia. Now, that comes, by the way, we've got a 10% tornado risk, and the hatched area is EF2 or stronger tornadoes possible in that zone, and 2 and 5% just about everywhere else. For tomorrow, the Storm Prediction Center hasn't really changed this very much. They've actually extended the slight risk a little further south into northeast Florida, including Jacksonville and St. Augustine. The marginal risk goes down to about Orlando. We have a slight risk from there northward. The slight risk goes all the way up into northwest PA and just covers the state of Delaware. New Jersey is mostly in marginal risk, and then they've got the line drawn from Sandy Hook to the northwest corner of New Jersey to about Binghamton to about Buffalo. And the general thunderstorm risk extends northward up into central New England. Tornado risk tomorrow is generally 2 to 5%. The 5% area matches up with the enhanced risk zone, southeast Virginia down into South Carolina. And then as we move on to day 3, nothing in the east, but you've got the general thunderstorms indicated for California, Nevada, Utah, and into Colorado, northern New Mexico, and northern Arizona. Don't see that too often this time of year, but there's an upper low coming in with a little, with some moisture and some dynamics with that. So might trigger off a couple of scattered thunderstorms in that whole zone. And as far as precipitation is concerned, so this is from tonight through next Tuesday night. This is mostly front end loaded. So we're looking at 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a quarter in a general area, covering everybody east of the Mississippi. And in the west, we're looking at 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half throughout much of California, including the coast. And it thins out a little bit, but still some stripes of it as you move up northward through western Oregon and western Washington. And as far as snow is concerned, this is the probability of snow of 2 inches, ending, let's see, this is through tomorrow morning. So you've got a high probability from northeastern Iowa northeastward up into the upper peninsula of Michigan. As we said last night, this is not going to be a big snow producer. I mean, nobody's getting 2 feet out of this. Most of the snow accumulation forecast across Nebraska. We're going to refresh this, see if we get a little update. And yeah, now they took it all away. What happened here? That's odd. They don't have anything. Oh, here we go. I don't know why it did that. But this is what we're looking at. Let me go to Thursday. So this is what we're looking at here for tonight. You can see an inch or two in northeastern Kansas, an area of 4+ in western Iowa, but again, no big amounts. Southeast Minnesota looks like anywhere from 6 to 8. Minneapolis is right in there with 7. In Wisconsin, where we have the winter storm warnings up, it's generally a 4 to 7 inch snowfall. Then you get into the upper peninsula of Michigan, where there's going to be eventually some pretty hefty lake effect when the wind kicks in from the north and northwest. So up there, you might wind up with a foot or a foot and a half. So there's our storm on the model. This is the GFS. I'm going to switch to the European, because it's I kind of like. I think it shows the squall line better, and it's just pretty much progressing. I find it amazing, Joe, when the models show a storm going through, for about a week now. It's been showing a major storm going from Kansas to the Western Great Lakes, and sure enough, you can write it down. You can bet the house on it. Every run, it varies by maybe no more than 40 or 50 miles. It never changes. You get a storm for the northeast of the mid-Atlantic states, and you have to play all these games on every single run as far as, where it is, how strong it is, how strong it isn't. I mean, it's just unfair. It's just darn unfair.
Isn't that what JFK once said? Life is unfair.
Yes. But there you go. It just plays itself out. There go the wind chimes. And moves up into the Great Lakes tomorrow. You can see the squall line in the Gulf states, swings across Georgia, kind of holds together pretty well during the overnight period. Then it weakens around daybreak and then fires up to some degree again. It's a little more patchy in nature for tomorrow, a little less organized. But the models are still picking up on some convective activity tomorrow afternoon and evening in eastern Pennsylvania and over New Jersey, Long Island, southern New England. It looks like it fires it up there. And also the gradient kind of tightens up too, so the south wind is going to be blowing. And by the way, strong winds tomorrow from Minnesota down to Louisiana, east across the Gulf states. It's just gonna howl all day long with this very, very intense storm system. And then we should start to see weather conditions beginning to improve on Thursday across the northeast and mid-Atlantic states.
Yes, I think that on Thursday we'll probably have some lingering, maybe it's some lingering shower activity. I think actually most of the activity will be shutting down after midnight tomorrow night, but there may still be a leftover shower, a straggler, if you will, that could linger on to about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And also, of course, people waking up on Thursday probably will wake up to fairly overcast skies. However, I do believe, Joe, that in the midday and the afternoon, as drier air filters in, we should get into some increasing sunshine and clearing skies. So it'll be a 50-50 kind of day on Thursday with clouds in the morning, some sun in the afternoon. Take advantage of that sun on Thursday. Temperatures are going to be probably still in the 50s. Even though we had a cold front come rolling on through Wednesday night late, the cold air is still going to hold off for a little while. The winds will certainly shift into a west or northwest direction, but it'll still be quite mild on Thursday. But then it will turn much colder. It'll be a blustery and chillier Friday and probably the weekend as well, with temperatures dropping back into the 40s and probably feeling more like the 30s because of the fact that the winds, again, are going to be quite active right on into the upcoming weekend.
And for those of you who were here yesterday as we were talking about the GFS having a snowstorm for next weekend, and we, of course, had to disappoint everybody, Joe, by telling them that it wasn't going to happen. Well, take a look at the system that's coming into California, and that is happening tomorrow morning and spreading precipitation throughout much of the west. That low comes to the east, basically gets squashed Friday night and Saturday. And then there's another low that's going to form right along the Gulf Coast that goes out way to the south. I mean, way to the south. Okay, the low, pretty much is over the Florida Panhandle and moves out as a kind of a flattish wave off the coast near Jacksonville. So there you have it. Another, I think we probably would have had about 300 inches of snow, given what the models have given the areas from New Jersey to southern New England this winter, and obviously that didn't quite happen. Now, did it? But once the storm system tonight goes and tomorrow, once that goes away, weather just kind of looks fairly calm. It doesn't look especially cold, but it doesn't look especially warm either. Maybe a brief warm up for a day or two next week, and then another front and another low and another front. Now it's starting to send lows across to our south, but it doesn't have a whole lot with them. I mean, it doesn't look like an exceptionally, well, I don't want to say it's a non-active pattern because there are weather systems that are going to be moving along, but we don't. It doesn't seem like anything is going to be especially strong.
Yeah, I know. Now I've got a couple of things to say here. First of all, I on Messenger, I got a couple of people who pinged me today. I don't know how else you'd say it. I mean, as somebody sending you a message on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, I'd say somebody pinged me, and they are astronomy buffs, and they've gotten very concerned because a week from Thursday night, there's going to be a total eclipse of the moon. Everybody would love to see the moon go into total eclipse. It's going to be high in our sky, and it's going to be a wonderful sight to see if it's going to be visible. And the couple of Facebook messages that I got said, well, I guess we got to give up on seeing the eclipse because they pointed out that they looked at the GFS. And in fact, I'm going to bring the GFS up for eclipse night, show everybody what the concern is. This is for 12Z Friday, March 14th. Now that's 7 a.m. on March 14th. The total eclipse is going to happen 6 hours earlier at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday, the 14th of March. Obviously, you see here that the GFS has low pressure south of Cape Cod, and they are suggesting that there's going to be a swath of rain that's going to reach all the way back to southern New England, Long Island, into New York City. And you actually go to 1 a.m. or 6Z on this day. Well, why can't I move this? Let me just, come on, move. This is the 234 hours, so I'm going to move it manually to 228. So this is the view as of 1 o'clock in the morning. We should be well into the eclipse by then. And look, we've got what? We've got low pressure again south of Long Island, all of this rain. And that's why I got, people, contact me and say, well, Joe, we're going to miss the eclipse. It's not going to be visible. And I pointed out to these people, I said, look at the hour. It's 228 hours. This is almost 10 days from now. And I said, I can assure you, and I'm sure Joe will back me on this, that when you look at something 10 days down the road, maybe there's a 10% chance that what you're seeing on a 10-day prog is going to line up with the actual date of the
Yeah.
event that you're interested in. They never, or they never, but they very rarely match up to what you see 10 days out. This is why I say that's so foolish when you see these TV stations that offer you a 10-day forecast. You look at day 10. Usually, when you look at day 10, whatever it says for day 10, you just go the opposite. Now, what I'm saying here is, and what we have been talking about all winter long, has been the fact that this storm apparently is going to come up to somewhere around South Jersey. It actually crosses through the Delmarva to off of New Jersey and out to sea. But look, how many storms have we seen so far this winter that have done that actually? And take a look up here. You have isobars. This is indicative of a high pressure system that's over eastern Canada. And what may very well happen, if this lines up with the way all of these other storms have been doing, is that this storm comes up toward us, supposedly, but with each passing run, and as this high strengthens, I suspect that this storm is going to do what all the others have been doing, and that is to head south. And if that be the case, and if the high does strengthen and does become more significant than what we see here on this 10-day prog, it may actually bring some drier air down and in, and maybe it won't be so bad for the eclipse a week from this coming Thursday night. That's what I'm just saying, is that don't get bent out of shape that the progs right now look very bad. Yeah, I admit that they do look bad, but again, thinking back over what we've seen over the past 2 or 3 months with these coastal systems, and Joe just said if all of them ended up giving what they were supposed to give, we would have had like 200 or 300 inches of snow here in New York. We have had hardly anything, and in fact, if anything, we've been kind of in a semi-drought this winter season. So I wouldn't get too concerned yet. Let's see, maybe in a few days, how the famous line, "The trend is your friend," provides maybe a trend of this storm going further south and allowing for drier air to come in, and maybe we might just be able to see that total eclipse of the moon. And if we do, I'll have more to say about that when we get closer to that event coming up next week. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I thank all of you who were on last night and have supported, even though I did go off the deep end. There have been a couple of people.
You went off the deep end? I can't believe it.
But there are still a couple of people making semi-snide comments about my performance last night, even reeling my wife into the picture here in this discussion.
Oh, that's really classy. Very classy.
They will not. They will go nameless here. And one person, other who will go nameless. For many years, I worked with somebody at News 12 Traffic and Weather, and this person comes online every so often to reprimand me when I make comments like I have the last couple of days with my concerns about the future of the National Weather Service. And in fact, this person, and I will not mention who he is, but again, I did work with him at News 12 for more than a few years, and he's saying to me last night on Facebook, you're making a big deal out of this, don't worry about it. He used the analogy, the cake is in the oven. The cake is
for a little savings, especially
in terms of the administration and what they're doing. And he says, you just have to wait for the cake to bake. I said to him, I think the cake is going to fall if it continues the way it is. But
clever.
He said,
I like that. That's clever.
But he said also, you're making a big deal about this thing with the National Weather Service. I happen to know that I know people at the National Weather Service, and they're all for what is going to happen.
Yeah, they're all for it. Right. Okay, sure. All right. They are all for it.
They're all for it. Yes.
All of them. He's spoken to every single one.
Now
I love when people say that.
When I saw that, I know you have friends at the National Weather Service, and so do I. And I actually, so I contacted one of my friends who works for the Department of Commerce, U.S. Department of Commerce. Whether or not that's going to be in business for too much longer is under question too.
No, you need commerce, Joe.
So I said to my friend, I said, "Are you concerned?" I said, "I just have this guy on Facebook who's telling me that everybody at the National Weather Service is not concerned." that everybody is actually for what may very well happen in the coming days and weeks. So I want to get your opinion. I'm not going to mention my friend's name, but again, he works for the U.S. Department of Commerce. And he wrote back to me and he said, and I'm quoting him now, of course we're concerned. The move to cancel leases on buildings that house critical infrastructure, if true, is unbelievable. Joe, he's talking about down in Maryland, the buildings that house the supercomputers that produce
Yes.
the GFS, the NAM, the HRRR. The push is right now to cancel the leases on those buildings that house those critical infrastructural maintenance and machines. And again, he says that is truly unbelievable. He said, where's all that supposed to go? He said, I don't know of a single person within the National Weather Service who is for this. Because I said, my friend says everybody at the National Weather Service is for this. And then he followed up by saying, this has nothing to do with efficiency. It's sabotage. He said, we're talking about here, and again, I'm quoting, the destruction of the national weather enterprise in existence for 156 years and mandated today by federal statute dating back 135 years, an essential facet of public safety that could not be rebuilt from scratch. The know-nothings behind this, have not thought this through at all. The private entities, again, the talk is that the National Weather Service and NOAA will be done and will all become privatized, privatization. And he says that the private entities that are clamoring for this will themselves go down because they depend upon us,
It's one of
us being the Department of Commerce, and I suppose NOAA and the National Weather Service, and they could not even begin to pick up the slack. The cascading effect of this upon people's everyday lives, minus reliable weather, water, and climate information, will be enormous. So, for those few who have been, saying, Joe Rayo, he's making a big fuss out of nothing here. Why is he saying this? Or this nimnut from Metro Weather, Traffic and Weather, who said everybody at the National Weather Service is for this or whatever. This is a direct quote or direct comment from somebody who's at the Department of Commerce, who was with the National Weather Service and NOAA. This is a comment from somebody, and he says everybody is concerned. Don't believe it if you say that nobody in the Weather Service and the U.S. government is concerned. They are concerned as to what may happen and what may loom in the coming days and weeks. And all of you who I know are weather nuts and really enjoy being able to go online and pick and choose your weather information and your weather data, whatever like that, that may very well go bye-bye, or it won't go bye-bye, but you got your wallet, handy, you got a few bucks, because you may be paying on a regular basis now for what is free. You may be paying for that in the coming months ahead if this privatization
See now,
does move
so
forward.
so, so here's where I would say, if they would go to the top of the chat board and click on the Amazon referral link and do their Amazon shopping, they will, be able, that would support us, and then we could stay on longer. So there are ways. Actually, just a couple of things to add. People don't realize how much. Well, there's two things. First of all, you mentioned this last night, and I think it bears repeating. Um, the taxpayer dollar pays for the National Weather Service. When you look at what the government gets back in dollars for compared to what it spends on the Weather Service, the return on investment is huge. Plus the fact that uh, it doesn't get much play, but the Weather Service is heavily involved with the agricultural community. We all have to eat, okay? We all have to eat. And farmers and the people who grow food in this country to feed us uh, depend on the National Weather Service in a huge way. Okay. Now, what do you think's going to happen if they're going to suddenly have to pay? And we're not talking like subscriptions for $20 a year here. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars that these farmers are going to have to pay in order to get uh, uh, weather information, and I'm sure they may already do that to an extent. But if they have to go whole hog and get all their weather information from a private source and have to pay for it, who do you think's going to pay for that? You are when you go to the supermarket to buy your stuff. I mean, and that's just one example of so many industries that rely on the Weather Service on a day-to-day basis and work with them in one way or another. Just the whole, hey, airports, flying. The Weather Service puts out, it does all the aviation forecasting. You think you're going to be, that has to be all paid for because the taxpayer's not going to pay for it if they get rid of it. It's not taxpayer money. It's going to come out of
But
your pocket.
the question my friend at Department of Commerce wants to know, Joe, is if they want to El Breco the Liso, a line from I Love Lucy. I mean, those are the buildings that contain the supercomputers that get all the data to generate all of our what does that mean? Does that mean that they're going to plan to just shut that whole facility down, and
I
we're
don't
not
know.
going to we're not going to have supercomputers running to make weather maps and to make weather projections anymore? I don't understand what they intend to do if they plan to take away or shut the lease off on those two buildings with all of that computer information, those computer machines. I mean, I don't know what they want to do or what they intend to do, but if they break up what has been melded into over the decades as a really amazing collection of the method of collecting weather data on a 24/7 basis. And all of a sudden, they just want to say, "That's it, we're done." We're going in a different direction. I don't know what direction they're talking about and where they intend to go and what they're doing. But you're absolutely right. So many people, farmers, agricultural people, people in cities. I know, for example, when I used to work for a private weather forecasting service all those years ago, and we provided weather data for municipalities, the municipalities had not one but two forecast places to look at: the private, which was us, and the National Weather Service, so they could pick and choose and compare and make decisions based on that. You need the National Weather Service. You need the government to provide you with all of this important weather information. And now, apparently, it's either going to go bye-bye or it's going to be made available to you at a price, or maybe not available at all. I don't know what they're planning,
Well,
but
I'm just going to quote a mutual friend of ours, and because he was, he's, and I talk with him most every day. Um, he said, "What we are talking about here." What we are talking here about is the destruction of the national weather enterprise in existence for 156 years and mandated today by federal statute dating back 135 years, an essential facet of public safety that cannot be rebuilt. Okay? That is a very important statement here. It cannot be rebuilt from scratch. All right, because that's what they're going to have to do. Somebody's going to have to rebuild it from scratch. The know nothings behind this have not thought this through at all. The private entities clamoring for it will themselves go down because they depend on us, Weather Service, and could not even begin to pick up the slack. The cascading effect upon people's everyday lives, minus reliable weather, reliable weather, water, and climate information, will be enormous. I think that says it all. It will be enormous, and these people haven't thought it through. No one is saying, when you get these conversations, because when you have these conversations like this, and what I cannot stand, I hate it, okay, is when somebody uh, comments back to you with that, you know, nasty political response, and then it becomes a fact that, well, you must be a flaming liberal, or you must be, a right wing fascist, or whatever it is. Nobody wants to have a civil conversation about this sort of stuff. I think, it's fair to say that most of us would like to see the government run far more efficiently than it is. I worked for the federal government for 5 years, a certain branch of the federal government, and I can tell you that it was incredible how uh, technologically backward it was, how inefficient it was, uh, just mind blowing, just absolutely mind blowing. Something their technology dated back to the mid 1970s. I mean, I'm not making a joke out of that. I'm talking the absolute truth. There, you were using computer technology going back to the mid and late 1970s, and it was never upgraded. Okay,
Maybe they were still using Fortran.
you know what? Close, Joe. Close. I mean, they're running pure DOS systems. And that's it. And maybe they've got a Windows computer and they make widgets out of it to make the DOS programs work. That's all. That's all they do. I mean, you're talking about you know a huge waste of manpower and man hours. Well, uh, I don't think. I think it's fair to say that most people will tell you that sure, let's do something. Make government more efficient. Make it bring up the big problem is is the lack of technology. But to just go in half-ass in these, like they did with NOAA and the Weather Service, and just shoot first, ask questions later, with regards to how the Weather Service functions and what it actually does, is so damaging. It's so potentially damaging. Um, I keep waiting to wake up one morning and hearing that that another slew of layoffs are going on in the Weather Service and in NOAA, and that they went into the Storm Prediction Center and fired three-quarters of those wonderful people there who do just such a marvelous job when it comes to severe weather. And then they go into the Hurricane Center and going to wind up firing a bunch of other people there. Just wait, just wait, and see what happens. If that comes to pass, you know, God forbid there's a severe weather event or a hurricane event. Uh, I can't imagine what the outcome of that is going to be. So anyway, I've had my share of idiots commenting on when I put up your clip, and I also put up that Verge story yesterday about what's going on at the Weather Service. Uh, it's mind-boggling to me. It really is. That if the way people behave and the way they act and the way they respond. And of course, this is such a you know this touches very close to home. And don't, by the way, don't tell me to stick to to stick to weather and keep my mouth shut. I'm a taxpayer too. I get to say what I want, just like everybody else. Okay. I pay federal tax. I pay, well, I don't make enough money to pay state taxes. I'm a retiree in Georgia. They treat you get preferential treatment. But I pay federal tax. I pay property taxes. I pay sales taxes. I pay all those things that everybody pays. And that means I get to say what I want and how I feel about these things. So anyway, that's my rant. Let's play Briller Jeopardy, shall we?
Surely. Who has it?
Okay. Extremes in weather in the month of March in New York City, Mr. Rayo. The hottest weather day in March was when?
I don't know.
And what?
I seem to remember the last 20 years at Central Park, I think we hit 90 on the 30th or 31st of March. I'm not,
Well, it was the 31st of March. It was not in the last 20 years. It was actually 27 years ago, March 31st, 1998, and it wasn't 90 degrees.
95.
No, didn't even make 90.
Oh, it didn't even make 90? I could have
No,
sworn at least once.
Adam
At,
Lowe got it at 86.
okay, well, congratulations,
86.
Adam Lowe.
Now,
Yeah,
what was the lowest temperature ever recorded in New York City in March?
it has to be coinciding with the blizzard of '88. I think something like 4 degrees.
That might have been, but there was actually one day that was colder.
Wow. I'm looking on the chat board
And
here.
Vincent Croce got it. Vincent Croce, 3
3.
on
Wow.
March 5th, 1872. You were in the right century. The most snow ever in the month of March, for the month of March, for the whole month.
Would that be the blizzard of '88 with 21
No,
inches?
actually, it wouldn't be.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a month that had more snow than that.
Was that there was a storm in 1914, March
Okay.
1st?
But no, that was not the month, the year, the month of the year. John Menendez with
Wait a minute. Hold on.
30
Hold on. Aren't we talking about extremes in March or?
extremes in March. So the snowiest month, the snowiest March ever.
Oh, the snowiest March ever. I thought you
Yes.
were talking about one singular storm. I'm sorry.
You're
Uh,
sorry.
the, um, gee, if they didn't have, if it wasn't 1888 and they already had like 21 inches of, in that month already. What possibly could have been the snow? And I know in 1996, the year that we broke the all-time annual snowfall record of 75 inches, the month of March had 10 inches of snow.
Right.
I don't know what year are we talking about?
Well, as far as the amount, firefighter Jimmy 132 gets it at with 30. It was 30 and a half. And Johnny Saxon, Northern Grace, and Adam Lowe are runners up, 29, 28, and 31 respectively. It was March of 1890, not 1896, 30 and a half inches for the month. And
Wow.
I skipped this one, but I'll go back to it now. What was the coldest daytime maximum temperature? So the lowest high.
Oh God.
I'll give you a hint. It was the same day that we had the lowest low, which was March 5th, 1872, when the low was 3. So what was the high temperature on that day?
Uh, I'll go with what Adam Lowe is saying. 11.
Very close. Snake Country close.
Either
Seal.
10 or 12.
That's correct. And Tyler Fienga gets it with 10. And the chairman hit super chat tonight. Thank you, Scott, for hitting the tip jar. Most appreciated. So that ends tonight's Griller Jeopardy. We got 89 likes tonight, Joe. We didn't get to 100. I guess we didn't rant long enough. You know?
Well, better luck next time.
I know, I know. And you know what next time will be?
Tomorrow night,
At what time?
7:35.
Uh,
Ruben, please, if the man wants to grow a beard, let him grow a beard.
I'm not growing a beard. I'm not growing a beard. It's my goatee.
He said,
Just
trim the beard. That's my
I'm not
rant.
trimming anything. Mind your own business.
And nobody said anything about the fact that I got my hair cut today.
You got them all cut. See, now
Yeah.
when I got mine cut, my hair grows so fast. I got
The
mine
woman
cut
who
too.
does the woman who does my hair, she got a big laugh. I said, I do an internet show with a friend of mine. We talk about weather, but last week somebody on the chat board, the Zoom chat board, said Joe Rayo's head looks like a Q-tip.
Oh, too funny. Too
Yes.
funny. Speaking of two, we at 90 on one, 99 likes. So, can somebody just like do us a favor and there you go, 100. Ring the bell before some smart ass unlikes us. It goes it back to 99.
There you go.
All right. So everybody, we will see you tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Night night.
Good night, folks.